Okay, in this video we're going to be looking at the Unit 2.12 wrap-up, the basic App Inventor drills. So to get started, you're just going to log into the mobile CSP website, find your way to the 2.12 page, and then find your way to this link right here, which is going to open up this document. So, on this document, there are instructions on what we're going to be doing, and it's basically going to take us through and do some basic App Inventor drills template. So there's an assignment that we can click on that will bring up a drills template document, which I have open in App Inventor here. And I'll take you through now the design layout. The blocks layout is empty for now, but in the template, it has a label banner across the top that's already built, a horizontal arrangement with a checkbox, a text box, but the text box is not visible right now, so I'm guessing either I added it in for troubleshooting or it's there and we're just not using it. But by toggling this display hidden components, it's there. And then we have a button test it, a label output, which says output shows here, and then a sound C, which has 3c.wav as its source, sound G, which has 3g.wav as its source, and those are both non-visible components. So the first thing I need to do is make a copy of this document so I can keep track of my work, because I'm going to have you all copy and paste in screen captures of your work. So to do that, I'm just going to go to File, Make a Copy, and I will add my name in the front, and then it is Fall 2020 copy of Drills Basic App Inventor. So once that happens, I have a document that I can edit, and once I have all this set up, I don't need all the stuff at the beginning. So I'm going to get rid of this stuff on my version of the document. I'm going to zoom in the page to make it a little bit easier to read. And there we go. And we're going to go through here, and it says, for each of the problems, code the solution in the blocks editor. Run and test the solution to keep the solution, keep running and testing until you're certain that it's correct. If you have trouble or questions, ask someone for help. For each exercise, you might want to save as to preserve your individual solutions. I've got a different technique for that. Instead of saving as, we're going to save our solutions as disabled blocks that we're not going to use. So looking at challenge number 1, they're saying display the state of the checkbox. So here it is. The checkbox has a Boolean state. It's either checked or it's not checked, true or false. So they want me to say when the test it button is clicked, set the label output's text value to that of the checkbox checked property. It will either display as true or false. So on the blocks side of things, I'm looking for my button test it when click, and all that we have to do here is find our label output, find its text, and set that text to be the value of the checkbox checked. So that's our text box. Here's our checkbox checked. If you hover over these things, they'll kind of tell you what it's doing. This returns the text displayed by the label, and then this one right here, if we hover over here, it's going to say true if the checkbox is checked, otherwise false. So back on the designer side of things, this is our first solution. One thing I'm going to add on here is a comment block that basically says, this is drill 1. And I'm going to go and connect, but I'm going to connect to the emulator. I've got my emulator running on the side right now. So hopefully everything will connect smoothly and everything will start up. Let's see, emulator started. Kind of waiting through here. I may have to cancel this and restart the emulator, but that's okay. We'll see in a few seconds. Alright, there's our companion. Looks like it's starting correctly. And now it should be sending blocks to the companion. moment. And there we go. So over here, I've got my Drill's Basic App Inventor. I've got a checkbox, which I can toggle and turn off. If I hit test it, right now, this output shows here should become false. And it does. When it's checked, it'll become true. Unchecked, it'll be false. All right, so we got our first solution done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my Lightshot app to create a print screen. And I'm going to copy and paste this solution into that document. Make a little space, paste in drill number 1. Drill number 2, display the state of the checkbox with color. When the tested button is clicked, set the text values checkbox check property and set its background color to your favorite color. For example, they use yellow. I like green. So now I'm going to find my label output. I'm going to find background color. Remember, they're all organized alphabetically, so background color will be towards the top. And then drop it in place. I'll go to the colors and I'll find green. So now if I cut back to my emulator, click on it, test it, true. Perfect. So one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this just for saving the old code. When I duplicate it, I do get an error because I have two event handlers handling the same thing, but we're going to ignore that. I'm going to trash this part because this is my drill number 1. And then just to save it out of the way, I'm going to disable this block. My error goes away. And then I can just double click and collapse. And I can stack this one over here. This one becomes my drill number 2 solution. And I would do another print screen for drill number 2 and paste it into the document. Although I'm going to do my print screen again because I have that little hover piece over, which I don't want to hover over the image. So Control C to copy. Sorry, that's loud. Control V to paste. There's my drill number 2. So now it says display the state of the checkbox with color and sound. So when button tested is clicked, set the labels property to the value of the checkbox checked. It's either checked or it's not, true or false. Background color, to my favorite color, I set it to green. And then the C sound should play. So to add that in, again, I'm going to duplicate this. This one's going to be my original drill number 2. So I'm going to collapse it by double clicking it and then disabling it. And now notice I do get another error over here, but this one's not really going to affect us because they're not enabled blocks. Up this one to drill number 3 because this is drill number 3. And then sound C, I'm going to find the play block and add that in at the end. So now if I cut back to my app inventor, there's a tone for false. There's the same tone for true. Okay, so that seems to be working. So I can print screen and save this as drill number 3. Control C to copy and Control V to paste. So drill number 3, we add a play sound. So for number 4 says play the output sound only when it's checked. So I don't want to hear the sound when it's false. So it's going to do everything else, but this time I need an if block to handle the sound. So I'll do my same little duplicate trick, collapse and disable. And that way I have my original number 3 saved. I can go back and look at it later. Update this to drill number 4. And now I need a control block that basically is going to be checking if the checkbox is checked. So I will duplicate this part and say if the checkbox is checked, then I want to play the sound. But I also want to always update the label, and I also want to always update the background color, whatever it is. And now I'm bored with green, so I will change it to light blue. So back to my emulator. If I hit test it, tone, unchecked should be no tone. No tone. Okay, so number 4 seems to be working. So I can print screen this one here. Control C to copy. And paste this image in here where it's got an if statement that is only if it is checked will it play the sound. Okay, so now it says display the state with different colors. Test it with play the C sound. Okay. Set the label's output to highlight the highlight checkboxes checked property, true or false, and then blue if it is checked, red if it's not. So now it says I need an if-else drawer from the controls, an if-else block from the controls drawer. So same thing as always, I'm going to duplicate my original one, collapse it, and disable it. So now this is drill number 5. And now I want 2 different colors. So rather than build off of this one, I'm going to kind of expand here and say I've got my if-else. And what did they say? They said blue if it is true, red if it's false. So I guess I'll grab like the simple red, trash that one, and I'll grab the simple blue color from this area. And then I think from this instruction, it's when it's clicked, it's always going to play the sound. The sound isn't dependent on true or false right now, so that wouldn't be inside the if condition. That's just going to happen at the end. So it's always going to play the sound again. It's always going to update true false again. If it is true, the color is going to be blue. Then I can duplicate this one here, trash the blue color, add in the red color, and I don't need this one open anymore. And this is number 5. And let's bring my emulator back up and see, test it. I got the tone, and I got blue. Although that blue is a little rough to try and see that background color, so I'll switch to another lighter blue and go back to the emulator and see how that looks. I can see true a little bit better in there, but it's still kind of tough. Maybe I could also update, if it's true, make the text color white so it stands out against the blue background, but that's something to consider for later. Alright, let's go now and see what we have to do for... Oh, I didn't do my screen capture. Screen capture for number 5. Print screen. And then Control-C to copy. And there's my different colors, and I'll paste it here at the end of this table. So there's my 2 solutions with blue and red. So now it says display the state with different colors and sounds. So the tested button is clicked. Checkbox, check property we want to display as the text. And then if it is checked, we're going to play the C sound. And if it's not checked, we're going to play the G sound. Now one thing in the template I didn't point out before, the media area of the template has this 3C.wav, and that is the sound C's source. And this sound G has the 3G.wav as its source. So now I want to call sound C when it is true, and I can just duplicate this one here, drop it in place, and then use this to modify it to my other sound, which is the G sound. So now it'll always say true or false, and it'll play one sound if it's true, another sound if it's false. So let's cut back to my emulator. There's my true sound. There's my false sound. True again. False again. So that seems to be working. Alright. Oh, you know what? I never copied number 5. So let's set number 5 back the way that it was and do my print screen for number 5. So number 5, I would go and duplicate, collapse it, and disable it. And then this is actually number 6. And then all I need to do is move the play sound C into the true condition of the if-else branch and sound G in the false condition of the if-then-else branch. So if it is checked, then we will update to blue and play sound C. If it is not checked, then else we'll set that to red and sound G. Print screen. So here's my print screen here, and I'll add this in here with this one. So there's that one. And sound number 7, it says, as it is currently, the app uses 2 sound components to play different sounds. That's fine, but there's another way to do this. Instead of using 2 components, a single sound can be used to play 2 different sounds by changing its source property. Modify a solution of the previous exercise so that it works in the same way but uses a single sound component. For this, we'll have to use the sound component's source property, which can be set to one sound file or another. All right, so I got 5 things there. I will duplicate this one for my saved number 6 solution and disable it. And then this one's going to become number 7. And I think the idea here is we're only trying to use one of these sound blocks. So I'm going to pull both of these out. And in the designer view, to kind of really drive home the point, I'm going to make a new sound component. It's called sound 1. I'll rename it to sound both. And that way it's going to play both files. I'm not going to assign it a source. But what I will do is in the blocks area, I will go, and first of all, I want sound both to be played when the button test is clicked. But right now, if I go hit and play it, so if I go to my emulator now, it's unable to play because I haven't assigned it a source. So what we can do here is in sound C, I'm going to find that source set block, and I have to set it to something. And what we actually have to set it to is either 3c.wav or 3g.wav. To do that, I'm going to use the text block and just grab in this text string block and type in the text exactly as it appears for my media file, 3c.wav. Capitalization is important here. 3c with a lowercase c is not the same as 3c with a capital C. It wouldn't be able to play the file. But I'll set my sound source to this if it's true. And then I will duplicate this again and set my sound source to this if it's false. And edit it from 3c to 3g.wav. Now if I cut back to my app inventor, got my false tone, I got my true tone. And you can see in here I'm only using one sound player, and depending on which branch of the if then else control structure it goes down, it'll change the source of the file as needed. We can drive that point home even further by going to the designer view, and this is beyond number 7's scope. But I could add in another label, and we'll just call this label source. And we'll go sound both source. So right over here it's going to show what the source actually is. And if I duplicate this block here, I don't want the checkbox checked, and I don't want it to update the output label. I want it to update the output source. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to concatenate some things with the join block. There's a nice vocab word for you, concatenate. And what I'm going to join is an empty string that is the sound both source, just the way I typed it in the other one. So sound both is the file name, space source, semicolon, or colon, and then another space there. And then what I'll actually do is I'll actually just go into sound both, and I'll retrieve the source file here. So this block is the whatever it actually comes to as a supported file. And then back on the build over here, I've got this one. I can hit test it, and it's saying it's 3g.wav. I can click over here, and we can see it updates to 3c.wav. So in here we added a little bit more just to kind of make it a little bit of our own. And I could print screen this as drill number 7 and kind of wrap up what we have here. So Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and that brings us to the end of our drills section. Let me know if you have any questions, and give this a try on your own just to see where things are going. And then at the end of everything, I already deleted it at the beginning. We don't really need to keep those things there, but now you've completed the drills, and if there's any other things here, it doesn't really matter that they're not there. They'll show up as just a warning message that they're not really attached to anything, and you'll get the other warnings over here for these being disabled multi-event handlers. But that's kind of where we are. All right, thank you for sticking around and watching this whole video, and make sure you give it a try on your own. Bye, everyone.